Well, we made it, Corey.
I can't believe it. We made it to the century mark.
100 episodes, my friend, and hopefully more to come.
Oh, definitely more to come.
We just want to start this episode by saying thank you. Thank you for sticking with us as we build this channel to something that we've always wanted.
Brendan and I have been talking sports forever, and it's been great to be able to put our thoughts and conversations on camera to share with everyone.
This episode marks our 100th, and we're excited to have a special guest celebrate with us.
Kent French is joining us today to talk about his career in broadcasting, share some advice, and discuss his next adventure.
Kent, we want to thank you again for your time and your knowledge, and hope to collaborate soon.
And thank you, benchwarmers, for your support in getting us here. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back, benchwarmers. Today we're going to try something a little different and talk about more than just sports.
We're going to be speaking with someone with 20 plus years of experience in broadcasting. We're lucky enough to have him on here to give us a look into the journey of making his name in sports and entertainment. I'm Brendan, podcast mentee.
I'm Corey, Kent's former intern.
And I'm Kent, story broadcaster, recent podcaster, and this is Our View from the Bench.
Before we get started, if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss any one of the new episodes.
Also, if you could please do us the favor, if you like what you see or hear, please don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash it for us. Come on. It's free. It's free for you. It's free for us. Helps out the channel a lot more than you probably think.
Hell yeah. All right. So today, everybody, welcome. We're doing things a little different today, as Brendan mentioned. We're going to have a guest today. Kent French is going to be here with us, and we're just going to kind of discuss the 20-plus years of experience he has in the broadcasting world and kind of just get his plan for what his next activity is that he's going to be a part of. Before we get started, we're just going to do a quick little intro and give you a little bit of background of kind of some of the things he's covered and been a part of here in SoCal. He's been doing this for over 20 years, as we mentioned. He worked for the Angels when they did the World Series in 2002, and they won. Maybe Kent's our good luck charm. Also covered the 2003 Stanley Cup Final and 2007 Stanley Cup Final for the Ducks, which the Ducks won in 2007, and helped with the championship parade. He covered the 2010 MLB All-Star Game, which was at Angel Stadium. And he's also done a lot of MC and auctioneer stuff with YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, and Special Olympics. Kent, is there anything I missed there that you'd like to add?
I don't know. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and I certainly appreciate the background there. But it's crazy to think it's been 20 plus years in Southern California, and it started at a cable station in Anaheim, and holding a camera and a microphone and running around talking to Little League, high school, college, and pros. So it was nice to see, you stick around long enough. They stop saying no and they finally say yes. So I was bound and determined to work in this market, and thank goodness it worked out.
Well, that's awesome. And again, we appreciate you taking the time to be on here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the time, Ken.
Dude, it's my pleasure, and I'm so sorry. I'm an in front of the camera guy. Obviously, I can't set up my own camera, so now you got to put the static photo of me on there, which it is your discretion, by the way. I hope it looks great. So, yeah,
I'm sure your personality will shine through the picture. So,
oh my goodness, I hope so. I'm only 2 cups of coffee in, so I'm crossing my fingers for you guys.
All right.
Well, we're going to kind of start towards the beginning, and then we want to kind of, end towards where your future goals are and some of the things that you've got going on next. But one of the things that we talked about, like you said, you were bound and determined to make a case and a stake in this industry in some way. Is there anything in particular, or what would have inspired you to even pursue this career in sports broadcasting?
I got into this late in my life, not really, but I mean, like my late 20s. I was still trying to find what I wanted to do and find a passion. And I jumped around from job to job out of college. I was an English major just because that had the most credits to get me graduated. Then I ran into a little commercial real estate, car business, in finance and insurance and advertising. Then I tried to start my own business. And then while I was starting my own business, I worked at a golf course. And so all these things, believe it or not, led to kind of where I am today, meaning I was in a position where I just wanted to find something I had a passion for. And I've always had a passion for sports, in particular baseball, being growing up, playing baseball in Southern California from a little leaguer. Mm-hmm. So that was always a passion. And when I was working at the golf course, crazy enough, some people there said, have you ever thought about broadcasting? Because I was calling golfers to the tee. Next up,
okay.
Like that type of stuff, and doing some stuff on the driving range. So I said, no, I never really thought of it. So I looked into some local broadcasting courses, ended up taking a sports broadcasting course at Long Beach City College. My professor there saw something in me and said, why don't you come to KFWB radio in LA and see if you can get a job there. She helped me there. Shout out to Tammy Trujillo. And I was working overnights, but I wasn't on the air. It was all production. So I really just talked my way into this whole thing. Did not know what I was doing. I was taking feeds from reporters at like midnight, 1 a.m. I was calling police stations, fire stations to look for stories for these reporters to cover. And then I would drive from, at 3 a.m. to my golf course. I would sleep for a couple hours, and my golf pro would knock on my window at 6 a.m. for my shift to start. So that was kind of a thing I did for a while. And then I delivered magazines as well to get out of my car to get some
a busy guy
for OC Weekly. So yeah, no, it was one of those things where, if this is what it was going to be, I got a late start, and then I had the same lady, Tammy Trujillo, was able to get me into a cable station called Century Communications, which became Adelphia.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And back in the day, and I started a local sports show. I was an intern, making no money, and had a camera. Learned how to shoot a Betacam and a microphone, and ran around North Orange County covering anything from Little League to pro. Anything I could get in front of me, learn how to edit on the old beta to beta machines, and we get it all ready and jump in front of the camera and do a show called Sports Link, which was a half-hour weekly show. And then we added a high school football show called The Fourth Quarter. We go out and shoot high school football games every Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
That's cool.
And then things started to change a little bit in 2002 because of my love for baseball. I started a show called This Week in Angels Baseball. And I started doing an entire half-hour show on the Angels, and luck had it that they went to the World Series that year.
Yeah,
I was able to cover it. My buddy who had done very well funded me to go to San Fran, and
right.
How I slept on some couches up there and covered the series there. And then the next year, I started a show called Center Ice. The Ducks came to Adelphia and said, we like what you guys are doing. So I started a Duck show, and sure enough, they go to the Cup run that year. And again, I was in New Jersey with the camera on my shoulder, and my buddy was doing the interviews in the locker room in Game 7 in New Jersey.
So cool.
All that stuff. And then in the meantime, too, I started a show. That show, I took it to the ESPN zone. I don't know if you guys remember Roy Firestone back in the day. Up close with Roy Firestone. So he used to do a show at the ESPN zone in Anaheim. So when he wasn't there, I talked him into letting me use that set. And so we would do a live studio audience Duck show and Angel show there. And then I created my own house band called KFO, which was the Kent French Orchestra.
Nice.
And so
like
it
LFO,
was kind of that. It was very much Jimmy Fallon, Johnny Carson esque, playing me in and out of breaks and that type of stuff. So, yeah, man, I just pushed the envelope as much as I possibly could, and the station gave me the autonomy to do anything. I mean, because really, no one was watching, so I could, it was a great place to cut your teeth and to. Get the experience I needed to get. And I actually applied for a job with NBC affiliate in Bakersfield. But, I didn't, and I got the job as a weekend sports anchor there. But I said, you know what, I want to live in Southern California. I want to make it here. So,
not much sports going on at Bakersfield, no offense.
Yeah, not a lot. If it's outside of cow tipping, there's not,
yeah.
No offense to all the folks out there.
No, not at all. Sports wise.
For sure, I decided it was good to stay here, and I did some stuff for the Speed Channel back in the day, which is a kind of a NASCAR type deal. So I covered some local NASCAR stuff. So I kind of dipped my toe in the water and did everything. And then when the Ducks and Angels split, meaning when, because it was Disney Sports, right, that had the blanket of both teams. And when Disney sold the Angels and already bought the team, everybody kind of split. So it opened up positions. And at the time, the Center Ice show was running during warm-ups on the Jumbotron when people were walking into the arena.
Oh, wow.
Or
Okay.
before warm-ups, I should say. And Rod Murray, who was the director of entertainment over there, we had a good relationship. And when jobs opened up, a lot of people just went to the Angels and wanted to be in baseball. He said, come in and apply for this production manager job. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, I don't, I want to be I want to be a broadcaster, and I don't know a heck of a lot about production outside of shooting a camera and beta to beta. And he's like, I want a different perspective. I want a different voice. So I got the job, hired people that are a lot, more intelligent than I am. AKA Rich Cooley, Corey,
yeah,
Peter
Rich Cooley's good dude.
Davin Maskey, Gabe Suarez, all those guys, like they came on. Awesome. And they're still, outside of Davin, who's across the street with the Angels now, they're all still there.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a great run. And then I slowly worked my way into when KDOC became part of our broadcast affiliate. I started doing some sideline there, and then continued to push. And Aaron Teets, as you know, who was director of broadcasting, took me into his department and continued to give me opportunities. And I give him and Rod so much credit for believing in me and letting me do what I wanted to do. And eventually I got on to Fox Sports West, Prime Ticket, and then started doing Angels. So that was, I've been with the Ducks for 20 years. And for the Angels, I've probably been doing it for 15, I would imagine, with Fox Sports and Bally Sports. So that's kind of a quick rundown of the whole bio, if you will.
I like that.
That was very, very wordy.
No,
but that's the backstory.
No, I actually appreciate that you did that. And one of the things that I like that you said was, because Corey and I aren't necessarily young. Now we weren't in our late 20s like you were, but kind of starting into this stuff a little bit later in life after we've already done a bunch of stuff. We're not doing it as teenagers and interns out of college and stuff like that. So it's nice to see that you don't have to be 19 in order to start in this industry. Like if you just, keep pursuing it, you can. One of the things that I've definitely took from you is you had a lot of help along the way, at least of people believing in you. Now, it took obviously your own grit and creativity and hard work to do the work, but it's awesome, like you said, that people have given you the opportunity and the chance. And sometimes it does boil down to who you know, I guess, huh?
That's a great point. And I always say, who you know will get you in the door, but what you know will keep you there.
That's a great saying. Yeah, it's very true.
It's just, you're only going to last so long if you don't, if you really don't have the chops, or if you don't have the work ethic. You can't just rest on someone else just, giving you that opportunity, but you got to work hard once you have it. So, you're exactly right. I mean, these people, you find some people that believe in you, but you got to show, I think you said it best, Brendan, you got to show the work ethic too there for them to believe in you, to know that, hey, I'm going to hang my hat on this person because I know that they're not going to let me down. And I think that was, fortunately for me, the case. And to get back to your previous point about starting late, I think it just comes down to, just because you're in a career and just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you need to stay there. Like, I think, you guys asked me about broadcasting is because it was something that made me happy. And I tell people who ask me, for some sort of advice, and they think I can give advice, which is very nice of them, is that, find what you like, find what you love, find what you have a passion for, and make a career surrounding it. And it won't be easy at times, but no matter what you do, you're going to be good at it because you want to do it, because you want to go to work every day. And it's not work every day. It's something you have a passion for, and you're going to find a way to make money and make a living out of it. And you're going to be happy for that. And I think
that's really cool.
I think it's not easy. It's not easy, right?
No, you sleeping in couches and in your car and waking up at 3 and 6 and to golf. No, it doesn't sound easy at all. No, definitely not.
Yeah. So you gotta have a passion for it and don't say no. I mean, trust me, I've had a lot of people say no. Like, there's a lot of people that look like you that are your age that we have jobs for. So thank you. We don't have room for you. I'm like, all right, well, and I had somebody tell me like, hey, if you want to work in Southern California, you got to leave. You got to leave before you come back. You got to go around and work your way back. And I'm like, that's not how I'm going to do it. It might have taken me a little longer. I might never made it here. Who knows? But I just stuck around. Like I joked around with. I just stuck around until they finally let me in the door.
I'll say that's actually perfect. Kind of leads me into the second question we had is, what skills do you believe are essential for succeeding in the broadcasting world?
Don't take no for an answer.
That's a good one.
That's huge. Number two is the work ethic. Again, you need to continue to work and make mistakes, because you got to learn from your mistakes. And one of the hardest things in broadcasting is to watch yourself on TV. I hate watching myself on TV, but you pick up
Really?
the does and the that's and how you ask questions, and you pick up some idiosyncrasies in your cadence that you go, my God, if I was watching me, I'd be annoyed. So you know what I mean? Like, come up with some different, and just so you gotta self critique a lot, and then you have to be open to critique.
True.
And I think that's important as well. But it's really just for broadcasting, you just got to do it over and over and over again. And that's, you know, again, when people ask me about getting into the industry, now there's so many mediums, guys. Like, look at what we're doing here. We're doing something on Riverside, a podcast. Like, there's so many different ways for you to get in front of a camera and to do a sports report, a food report, a travel show, whatever it is. You can do whatever you want, right? Just do it over and over again, and you're going to get good at it. Like, back in the day, we didn't have any of this stuff. I'm sounding like an old man now, but like we didn't have any of this, right? So it was just TV, or it was nothing else. So I think it's constant repetition. Don't take no, and don't give up.
You know, it's funny you mentioned not wanting to watch yourself, and that totally clicked with me, because when we first started doing the podcast, and I'm the one that does the editing, I have to watch all the video and hear all the audio. I don't know how many times of the same thing when I'm trying to edit. So having to hear myself over and over and over, I have started to critique myself a little bit, and so notice the same thing where I use that word a lot. I need to change it and add to my vocabulary. So I totally, that when you said that, that's like the first thing that came to mind when we first started doing this podcast. I had the same situation.
By the way, Corey has joined me on the Frenchie's Friends broadcast on Instagram. He crushed it. Like, I asked him one question and he just went and went. I'm like, oh my God, he answered everything I was going to ask. No, dude, you guys are, no, I can tell. Like, just, and two, like, the thing is, another huge thing for me is don't be afraid to be imperfect, right? Like, you're not relatable if you're imperfect. I mean, if you're perfect,
that makes sense.
You're not relatable if you're perfect. You got to just be conversational, because in our daily lives, we stop, we correct ourselves, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to do that, and don't be afraid to make mistakes on air. So when I'm live, like, it took me a while to figure this out and get it in my head, but I don't care. I mean, I care what people think, but I don't care anymore enough to, like, hey, if I make a mistake, I'm okay with that. Like, somebody told me that, you know, as a broadcaster, you're going to make mistakes no matter what, right? Especially on live TV. But the good ones, you can't tell they make mistakes.
So how do you handle that then? Like, what is it that you just ignore it? You just...
Yeah, it took a while. Okay. Don't get me wrong, Brandon. Like, it took a while, because then in your head, you get in your head, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're on live TV,
what if they're right?
Yeah, and if you pause on live TV, like, for 10 seconds seems like it's a half an hour. It's crazy. It's like it's like dead air. Like, nobody wants dead air. So yeah, it's you just have to get past being perfect. And, like, a lot of times you want to script things out, right? You want to, like, I heard you guys in your kind of the intro, and I knew that a lot of it was kind of scripted but it's like, eventually you're just going to be able to say it. Like, you just have, like, my notes are just topics and stats, and I got to fill in the blanks. So it makes it more conversational than me trying to memorize something. Because if you try to memorize something and you make a mistake, it gets in your head right away. Yeah. And then you're thrown off completely for the rest of whatever you want to say.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because that's kind of how we started. It was at the beginning. We rewrote everything down. And I think it goes to that point that you're talking about perfection. And not in the sense that we think we're perfect, but we just want to do so well that we think perfection is the idea. When in reality, you're right. And luckily, we're not live like you were. We have a podcast where if we do mess up and it's really bad, we can stop. Sure. But to your point, the imperfection is what makes people relatable, because most of the time I'm not messing up that bad. It's just not perfect. So that's what we used to do. And we've basically moved a little bit more towards kind of what your style is, like notes, put stats that we want to make sure that we repeat up on the screen, as opposed to writing out the entire script.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth here for a minute, because when I do put my scripts together, quote unquote scripts, because we have no prompter, right? On Angels Live, Ducks Live, everything is just, you know, conversational. But with my prep work, I do write out the show. So but I write it out in my head. So I just have a flow, and it's not word for word by any means, because I stack it with stats, and I don't use 80% of what I write down, because I want to be over prepared. And when I'm sitting next to Guy or Mark Gubaza, Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson, Bobby Valentine, whoever it is, they are so good at what they do. They have so much stats that they usually utilize all the stuff I have. But there might be one nugget that I can just put as a punctuation point at the end of their thought and then move on. Oh, and blah, blah, blah. Mike Trout, in the month of October hits 350, which is more than anybody else in baseball. Moving on to the next stat, or like whatever that might be. So, so it's, and like I said, again, guys, it took me a while to find that comfort and to have that confidence, is to jump off that cliff and be okay with making mistakes and be okay. And that's when your personality comes out. You have fun. You can joke around. You can go, oh, where am I? Where am I in my, oh yeah, here it is. Or your producer's in your ear and you joke around. Oh, yep, that was Dave. Yeah, he's got me back on track, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's okay, and it shows your personality. And because you don't want to be a stiff talking head. That's the last thing you want to be, and that's the last thing people want to watch.
True.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So as far as people, like, since you've been doing this for a while, obviously, and when getting into the career that you got into, who were like, was there anybody that influenced you or like mentored you to try to get to this point, or gave you that like drive? I know you mentioned Aaron Teets and a couple people early, but was there anybody else that you didn't mention that kind of gave you the influence to want to get into this industry?
No, I mean, people that I know, not really. I mean, it was mostly just kind of self-driven.
What about people you look up to, like a Vince Scully type of, anything like that as a kid? Maybe
that's a good question. I think one of the guys I really pay attention to is Dan Patrick, and the reason being is, if you ever listen to him, and you could throw Bob Costas into that equation too, the really good interviewers and how they ask questions. So I read an article a long time ago, and there was this gentleman who worked at ESPN, and he had an office, and he had a question mark on his door, and his job was to critique every anchor, every reporter that went through ESPN on the way they asked questions. And it was, you never ask a yes or no question, because you could get a yes or no answer, right? You never give your guest the opportunity to say yes or no. So it was how, what, why. Were three things to start your question with. Those are open-ended questions, and hopefully will get you more than a one-word answer, because as you know, when you're sitting there intermission talking to an athlete or talking there at post-game or whatever it is, the last thing you want is a one-word answer, right? Because
how'd you go? Good.
You gotta,
do you guys think you did well? Yes.
Yeah. And then you have to be you can't have your note. You can't look down at your notes. You just have to be, and also you have to know your guest. If you have a guy that's going to give you some good answers, and there are others that, give you shorter answers. But I think that's going back to Dan Patrick. It's just like, you listen, his questions are very conversational. They're very well thought out. Sometimes they're one-word or two-word questions. You listen to some of the people that interview, and they almost answer the question that they're asking in their own question. It takes them so long to get to the point. Ask the question. Get there as soon as you can. Let your guest speak. So I admire those guys for the way they approach the interviewing, and you always listen. I think people that are starting out, they run into an issue where you do have everything planned out, right? You have it written down on your notes, and you have it ready to go when you talk to them, and your guest could give you a nugget, and you completely miss it because you're thinking about your next question. Like they could say, everything, that play meant so much to me because of, what happened in my childhood, growing up. And then you go, that was great. So tell me about the power play.
Yeah. And you're like, wait a minute. What about the childhood thing?
Wait. Yeah. You just threw me this nugget. Like, scrap that. Go down. He's letting you in.
Yeah.
Or she. Like, they are letting you in to something. Don't miss that. So you need to listen. And athletes know when you're not listening, because you're either not looking at them and you're looking down at your notes, or you just kind of have a glassy eye. You're just like, you can tell when you're intent and you're listening to what they're saying and you respond to what they're saying. And that makes a difference because they're going to give you more.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, not just listening for like the end of the thought. So that way you can move on to the next question. Good point. Yeah.
Brendan, you mentioned Vince Scully. I think you can't, like, when he is the quintessential, Mount Rushmore of broadcasters for me, and just the way that he could tell stories, and he could weave a story into a broadcast better than anybody else probably ever will. Granted, baseball, you have the platform. Hockey, you can't do that. Sure. But in baseball, you have that. And that's what I admire too. And if and when I get a chance to call play-by-play, that's what I want to do, is be able to tell these stories, do the research, dig in. And that's part of what I, we'll get to, what I'm doing now later. But telling the stories that aren't necessarily baseball related, but are human interest related, makes such a difference, I think. And it's so unique. You don't hear it enough. And I think that's what made him special.
And Vin was excellent at it, to your point. I mean, the way he weaved is a great way to say it, because he would literally say, fastball outside, and then immediately get right where he left off to the previous part
how he was able
of the
to do it.
story.
And then like going to break and then coming back out of break, and like you just never missed a beat. Like it was it was amazing what he was able to do.
Yeah, not very legendary.
To do it by himself too, and have no like guy to back.
True.
That makes it even harder, because you have no one else to play off of it. You're just by yourself, and like you said, baseball, you have time to talk and you have space to fill, so you have to have something. And again, weaving is the perfect way to describe how he would do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you talk about Vin, you talk about obviously baseball, and we want to ask you, from the experience that you've covered a lot. Is there any particular event that you've covered or been a part of that sticks out to you? Maybe two different ones if you have the time.
Well, yeah. When it comes to my experience with the World Series in 2002, able to be on the field when they won it. That was special, being in the tunnel outside the locker room, waiting for the champagne reception, watching it on the TV down there. And all of a sudden the security guard going, "Okay, you guys are going on the field." We're like, "Huh?" So all of a sudden we ran on the field, and they were literally still piled on the pitcher's mound after they won. And going out there and, interviewing everybody, and just enjoying the moment, being from Southern California and being able to experience it out there was pretty special. And then I remember going in the locker room, the champagne, celebrations going on. It's me, another guy, a camera guy with me, Preston, and my best friend Brett, who by the way I mentioned earlier, a buddy of mine that had done very well, or still has done very well in life, and so he was, he helped fund some of these trips, right?
Oh, right, so, yeah.
He was down there with me, holding the mic a lot, and he was part of the experience. And we went in there, and we're doing I don't know how many interviews I did. I couldn't, we just kept interviewing people, and
everybody you could, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I look over, and he's hugging David Eckstein. I'm like, what the heck is he doing? and he came over to me, and he's like, "Dude, enjoy the moment. Like, put the microphone down, enjoy the moment." And
that's a really good point.
Yeah, like you forget, right?
Yeah.
So I put the microphone away, and I started going around and just telling the guys, just congratulations. It was a cool experience. And of course I got to go with the Ducks, the Stanley Cup, being on the ice. I got a chance to be on the ice when they won it. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate, when it comes to being around these two franchises when they hit their first championship.
Really cool.
It's funny too, Kent, because I actually started working at Angels in merchandise in 2007 when I was in college, and that was obviously the year the Ducks won. So a lot of the employees were working both merch at both arenas, and so my boss at the time, Angels, was like, "Dude, I want to work like I'm a Ducks fan," and he's like, "Well, the further they get, we might need more people." So they literally asked me to come work Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's my first day working there. And they win the cup, and I'm with you. I'm like, I go down to the service level to check out, and like the ice is, I mean, everyone's just out there drinking with bottles of champagne with their family, and I'm just sitting there like, I'm not a part of it, but I am. And this is, as a Ducks fan, especially, like, for them to win was awesome. But to then see all that behind the scenes, like you're talking about after in the celebration, it was just like, oh, this is definitely what I want to be a part of. Like, this is awesome.
No, so
Unfortunately,
true.
we
And
haven't
then,
won since, so I don't know if it's my fault or not, but
Way to go, Corey.
no, hey, you can blame me too, right? But no,
yeah.
it's no. And then there was a moment, not to continue on this, but there's so many moments, right, when you're around that. And so I was, after we did the interviews on the ice for the cup, we came back and I was actually invited in the locker room for the
Oh, nice.
celebration, and I kind of looked and I'm like, no, that's not where I'm supposed to be. And I went, it was literally turn right to the locker room, turn left to the production office at the time. And I went in there, and that's where Peter and Davin and Cooley and all the boys were. And we sat there and we celebrated ourselves. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Those were the guys that I wanted to be with at the time. And I was, again, fortunate enough to go into the tent afterwards for the celebration. And I don't know if you remember the name Ryan Shannon, but he was the smallest guy on the team. He was a rookie. He came over to me and he's like, "Hey, have you had a picture with the cup yet?" I'm like, "No." And so all of a sudden, by the way, the cup didn't hit the ground, right, for hours and hours. It was being passed around in this tent. Mm-hmm. He grabs it from whoever had it. He brings it over to me and my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we got a picture. So it was pretty special, having him looking out.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'd love to shake his hand and thank him for that moment. But yeah, so, and again, so many others. It's the people that I work with and the great analysts and both organizations I consider part of my family because, as you guys know, you're with these teams as much as if not more than your family. So
if not more,
I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people.
Yeah, I totally understand. We do live at the Honda Center. I get this time of year. I'm with you.
I see you more than I see my wife, Corey, and I don't see that much.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, and then I know you mentioned a little bit earlier how things have changed as far as we're doing a podcast here, but like just as a broad in general, I guess what's like the biggest landscape changing that you've seen as far as what you've been doing? Because as you started, you said beta to beta, and now here we are on Riverside through a webcam. So is there anything like? I mean, it's changed a lot, but is there anything in particular, like one thing that changed that you think is going to be for the better, I guess, of the broadcasting world moving forward?
Yeah, streaming. And the Ducks are doing that this year, and I give them a ton of credit for taking the leap. I don't know the particulars when it comes to finances, but I know it's certainly not anything but a money grab. Henry and Susan Samueli are incredible when it comes to the fans. 100% distribution. Everybody can see it. And they can see it for free. That's like legit when you talk about owners wanting the fan experience to be the best in their sport. That's the way to do it because that's what the future is going to hold. It's going to be, and the company that I, working with and might work with again. I don't even know what's the future is, but like Bally Sport, as we know, is still in bankruptcy as we're recording this. It came out yesterday that Diamond Sports dropped all the MLB teams except for the Braves. There's just a lot of stuff going on when it comes to the landscape of regional sports. So I think the streaming aspect, the Dallas Stars and the Ducks now are in Victory Plus are the only two teams on that platform. I think you're going to see a lot more teams going that way. And they're going to find a way to make it, financially, beneficial because, as you guys, these contracts are crazy when it comes to TV. Yeah. They were crazy, right? And that's why all the player salaries are going up. I mean, that's a huge reason. So I think streaming is where it is where it's going to be at. It's that menu option I keep hearing about, right? So you don't have to have these bundles and you don't have DirecTV and Cox and Comcast. Like you don't have to buy all these channels to get ESPN. You don't have to buy all these channels just to watch your one team play. You're going to be able to pick, I want to watch this game on this date against this team. Like it's eventually you're going to get to that. Yeah. And I think that's where it's going. And it's going. The Ducks are part of that wave, and I'm really proud of the organization to take that leap.
Yeah, and I think too, because of the younger generation, the way people watch games and things on their phones or mobile more than anything else, I think that's part of the plan too, is giving the younger generation an opportunity to watch games instead of just highlights. And hopefully, as we go into this new era of Ducks hockey with the new logo and everything too, we can hopefully get a newer, younger generation as far as fans moving forward.
I agree, and I'm one of those too, Corey, that I don't watch games, right? Because my life is or has been, at an arena, which I'm very grateful for again. But so when I'm home, I don't watch sports. If I want them, because I have, a 7-year-old daughter, and I want to be available.
Understandable.
Um, so the next morning I'm on ESPN. I get to see the home runs, the best plays. It takes me, like my Angel prep. I don't watch the game if I'm not at it, or I don't watch it, on TV. I just look the next morning and I see what I need to see.
Mm-hmm.
We lost.
And I can get it done. Besides that, yes. It takes me 5 minutes to get a recap instead of 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It's going to be a new way to do it. You're going to be able to do it on your phone and all that stuff like we do now. And it's just a new way of viewing things. And I think it's the future. And the Ducks are one of the first to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for giving us all of this insight and the knowledge that you got. Before we wrap up the entirety of the interview, we kind of want to hear about your newest adventure. You've touched on it a little bit throughout the interview. You've mentioned previously, I know Corey told me that you made the announcement the other day at the Ducks that you're starting something new. So we'd like to kind of get a little bit of a description of what that is.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about it. And I've been very vocal that this has been the toughest decision I've ever had to make when it comes to, a life decision, really. But it's a good one. It's I've decided to step away from broadcasting for the time being, and I tell people it's goodbye for now, not goodbye. I don't know what the future holds. I'd like to say this is certainly my decision. Both organizations, the Ducks and Angels, have been incredibly supportive. Just amazing. Kind of, hey, come and we'll talk when you get back and see if there's a spot and see if there's a mutual, if there's a mutual fit. If we want you, you want us, type thing. It's been because when I talk to the Ducks, I go, I don't expect anything when I get back, right? Because these are coveted jobs and coveted positions. There's one in 30 in the National Hockey League, 1 in 32, if I'm counting right, in MLB of this stuff, right? So I know how coveted they are, and but one of the things I've always, one of the mantras that I've always had is, once you're comfortable, get uncomfortable, right? I want to grow. I want to be the best I can. And I believe that I can give more than I'm giving now in my position. I can grow more, learn more, and be better. As we've been talking about this whole time, like, I know I can be a better broadcaster and a better storyteller and a better interviewer. And so I need to jump out of that comfort zone, get uncomfortable. And I'm very uncomfortable right now because, in a couple days, I'm going to jump on a plane and I'm going to leave the States for 9 months. I'm going to go on a journey with my 7-year-old daughter, my wife, and we're going to travel the world, and we're going to tell stories of people, places, things, cultures. We're going to podcast. It's called Frenchitivity, and as it's obviously play on our name, but it's possibility, creativity, tranquility, which adds to Frenchitivity. And
that's what I was going to ask. I'm glad that you broke that down.
Yeah, we want to tell positive stories. We want to be part of this good news network. With the landscape of the world and our country right now, I think I want to be on the other side, and I want people to tune in and be inspired. Find happiness, joy, all those types of things. So we're my wife and I have one podcast. We've actually recorded 2 others, and the focus is people, families, couples that have basically jumped off the cliff without a net, meaning like small business owners who have just mortgaged everything to make it work. And the risks that they have dealt with. And a lot of people are calling it no plan B. And that's kind of what we're doing. No plan B. We're just kind of, we rented our house out. We sold most of our stuff, Goodwill. They know my name at the dump. And yeah, we are, we're doing this on a very tight budget. This is not a vacation. We are, but yeah, another family, and we're going to interview families too. We kind of want to be the common thread. If you guys on Instagram and social media, there is a huge community of people, individuals, couples, and families that have just sold it all and they're traveling the world. It's incredible how many people are out there doing this, and we want to kind of be the voice of these people. And we interviewed, they were kind enough to come on, a family from South Africa with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old boy, 2 years ago, they sold their home. They bought a 40-foot catamaran, and for 2 years, they sailed the Baltic and the Mediterranean.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I won't be doing any sailing because it'll be a 3-hour tour, and you guys won't see me ever again. Yeah. So that's kind of the goal here. Is
where are you starting? If you don't mind me asking, like, where's your first place?
So part of the negotiation with our 7-year-old daughter was that we have to start in New York for 3 days.
Okay.
She wants to see the Statue of Liberty. So we're going to start there. And then from New York, we go to Portugal.
Oh,
and we're going to be in Portugal for a month. And then we are going to plan each trip when we land. So we penciled it out. So it's Portugal, Greece, Croatia, and then Malta, an island right off of Italy for Christmas. And then when we start the new year, we want to end up in no particular order: Thailand, Japan, Malaysia. We're going to chase the sun a little bit. We're going to got to watch the weather. We want to end up in the Caribbean, but it could be hurricane season. We might pivot to, French Polynesia. I don't, and also, like, to you guys, part of this is the people, right? There's a big part of it. So if we meet families and they invite, it'd be great to be invited to someone's home or something, whatever, right? Yeah. So we want
go with the
flexibility.
flow.
Yeah, and we're actually soliciting partners for this, whether it be apparel or travel. When it comes to, like, if there is an Airbnb company that we partner with, a hotel company we partner with, we'll go to those different spots, podcast from there if they become a partner. So we want that type of flexibility because we're going into this as a brand, French, and we have a logo and a Frenchitivity name, and on Instagram we're at frenchitivityfamily.
We'll have those links down below, guys.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. And long form is going to be in YouTube. We're going to have all of our long form videos in YouTube. I bought a bunch of equipment. I'm trying to learn how to use it. I got Osmos, and I got action cameras, and I got all kinds of stuff that I got to figure out how to use. So yeah, I might even fly a drone. Sounds exciting. Yeah, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So yeah, it's going to be, that's part of it, right? Just just got to get on the plane, get there, and we'll go at it. So it's going to be an adventure of a lifetime. We're going to homeschool our daughter for a year. She's in second grade this year, so we're going to homeschool her. And it's been it's a crazy journey. We just got a write up in the San Clemente Times, the Daily Pilot. Awesome. Just did an article on us, and my wife is going to be a contributor to Coast Magazine every other month to update on her journey. And Roger Lodge said that he'd do Where's Frenchie on radio. So maybe you'll see me pop in and out of that show on occasion. So we've had some terrific support from the community, and we really want people to live through us, come with us, and inspire people to hopefully do the same.
I think that's awesome. Yeah. I'm already inspired, to be honest with you. I'm a lot of people talk about this kind of stuff, right? A lot of people talk about how they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to, but not a lot of people actually do it. So it is inspiring to see somebody who is putting it out there. Just, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And they're actually taking the leap to do it. It's inspiring in the sense because, I mean, not to get too personal, but I'm trying to figure out what I'd like to do with my life. I don't hate my job necessarily, but I'm trying to figure out what I want. And that's what I need to do is, now that I'm comfortable, I need to get uncomfortable. That's a really good way to
Brandon,
put it. Inspire me personally.
Not to be too, psychological on you, but those are okay thoughts. Like, people sometimes get frustrated that, I don't know what I want to do. I'm this age and I should be doing this and I should have this and whatever it is, and I mean, I thought for sure, like, I was supposed to be married and have kids by 25 because that's what my parents did. Right. Like, but it doesn't have to be that way. So it's okay to not know. I mean, and I'm I don't know you that well. I'm proud of you. The fact that you don't, just don't settle. Right. Yeah. Just don't settle. Just keep pushing. And maybe you won't have all these toys that some of your friends have, but you're going to have this other kind of happiness that's what I'm striving for. Bigger and better, than you could imagine. So just don't stop chasing what you love to do. And again, that'll turn into zeros in your bank account at some point.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. The way I've always kind of, because you mentioned how you people always do this where you compare yourself to friends and where they at in their lives. The way I try, somebody told me this a long time ago and always kind of stuck with me. We all have our own life or book but we're all at different chapters in our book. So like,
Yeah.
even though you're the same age as someone, you guys are going to be at different chapters of your life based on how things are going. So like, it just doesn't make any sense to compare yourself to others. And like you said, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. And be comfortable with being you. Like I would joke around, and with my friends, I had a lot of friends that were the gated community friends. They lived in the gated community. They had a nice car, the good jobs. And I was still in my late 20s, early 30s. You know, I moved back home for a year. Like, you got to be okay with that, right? Like, just, you know, it was a hit. I mean, it was a, you know, not that I consider myself to have an ego, but it's a knock, right? You mean all of your friends are doing these things and all these grandiose lives, and like, I'm back at home trying to figure it out. So yeah, it's a choice, and it's tough, and I'm glad I was able to do it, and I would recommend it to everybody, but it's not for everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does.
Kent, again, this has been awesome. This has been a great interview. We've got a lot of information from you, and we just want to say thank you again for taking out the time to do this with us.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it.
And I wish my camera was here, because I have a wardrobe rack next to me, and I'm sitting on my daughter's chair, and I have moving boxes. And maybe I'll send this photo to you. You can put
that's what we should do.
I was just going to say that.
Staring at the screen, and you can use this photo.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I was thinking the same thing as you said. I was like, you should just send me a photo of your setup.
Just sitting right there. Well, I know that I'm going to be checking out your adventures. We're going to put everything down below, all of your socials, anything that you've talked about here. We're going to put it down in the description below here. So yeah, again, like Corey said, we just appreciate you taking the time to come out and hang out with us for a little bit.
Absolutely. Best of luck, boys, and I appreciate you having me on and let me talk about all this stuff. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you as always again for seeing things from our view from the bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace.
This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.